Hi, it's Friday. It's 3 o'clock. Welcome to Together Unlocked. I'm Ju Gosling, also known as the artist Ju90. It's Friday, so I'm dressed up to go out to stay in, and I'll tell you more about that in due course. With me in my East London studio is the artist Julie Newman, also dressed up to go out and to stay in. Julie is the chair of Together 2012, who bring you this show today. We're led by disabled artists in the main host borough of Newham. And, well, I think before we go any further, without much ado, we should go to the other end of our long virtual wheeled sofa for some introductions and audio description from the West Midlands. And then we'll come back to East London and give you some audio description and tell you a bit more about today's show.
Well, good afternoon from Sutton Coldfield, and some ado is always worth having. So, I am Robin Surgener. I am Business Director at Together 2012, co host of Together Unlocked, and also an artist known as Angry Fish in my own right. We are in our West Midlands studio with our lovely velvet curtains, making us super comfy. Uh, Today, what do I look like today? Well, I am sporting my lovely shiny white grey hair, my no rimmed black armed glasses, sort of shaven, and I'm wearing a black round necked t shirt, uh, which is a Green Day t shirt for their advertising their album American Idiot, which also shows a hand holding a hand grenade in the shape of a love heart. And I'll talk more about that when I'm asked about why I'm wearing it.
Hi, I'm Josh Surgener. I'm also one of the hosts of Together Unlocked, and I am also a student. For my audio description, I'm wearing a blue, white, and red hat with a very big bubble on the top. I'm wearing a very woolly blue scarf, and then I'm wearing a jumper that has blue shoulders, a thick grey stripe under the shoulders, and then in thin stripes, it's white, red, grey, and blue going all the way down the body
You are
and
so
sleeves.
the stylish one. There's never a simple sweatshirt or a cardigan with you, let alone like me with ones off eBay.
I
So,
will have you know, this is a very exclusive designer in that I brought it for about 15 euros in a French supermarket. So,
well, it's not the money you spend. Thankfully, it's all about the style. But yes, Josh, unsurprisingly, as the student, is the stylish one. Um, Yes, let me describe our backdrop first. Behind us, there are some silver grey velvet curtains. There is part of our Together 2012 graffiti banner in sight. That's covered with images of all the different art forms that we cover in the course of a year. We also have our teddy bear Anna, this week's medal bearer, and wearing the medal because we won Wednesday's Clockwork Paralympics. All of the recordings of our shows are up on the website under the main Together Unlocked TV page. So do check that race out. We enjoy very much watching the para athletes get terribly excited about the fate of little clockwork toys the longer they're deprived of their usual sport. So I'm a white woman. Under my hat, I have hennaed self-colored, self-cut corona crop is the easiest way to describe it. I've got light olive skin with green eyes behind black plastic glasses, silver colored jewelry, and today I'm wearing a black polo neck sweater with a silver thread, a yes, very cheap, 15 euros. Oh my goodness, that sounds expensive. A very cheap sequined silver waistcoat and a black top hat that's got a sort of laser silver cut scarf all the way around it. And indeed, wrong side, Joe, going down my back. So, yes, we'll come on to our regular feature, dressing up to go out to stay in a minute. But in the meantime, Julie, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Julie Newman. I'm the chair of Together 2012. Currently, I'm wearing a sort of furry inset snow hat with ears, which I like quite a lot because it makes me look like my dog Precious. This is the second time in a week that we've had dog references. I'm wearing a lavender hoodie with a zip down the front and a black, no, it's a grey scarf with on one side a white westie. Just getting that nicely set up. Oops, these westies. And then on the other side, a black Scotty, which I think is impossible to see because of the lights. However, it's wrapped around my neck once, so it's all nice and cozy. Actually, it's quite hot.
But that makes a nice change this week.
It does.
And you've also got
Oh, what?
gold and silver coloured hair,
Indeed.
green framed glasses,
Indeed.
and ever paler skin. So on a Friday, we always dress up to go out to stay in. We've done this in and out of lockdown because as shielders, we haven't gone out full stop, or at least only for necessary appointments and a little bit of work in the case of the West Midlands, and not at all in our case. But why would that stop us dressing up? We were inspired originally because in New Zealand, where they know how to do everything properly, they were all dressing up for what they called formal Fridays, where they dressed up to go out to the opera and then ate at home. We don't tend to go out to the opera, and we thought it was a little bit limiting anyway. So we dress up to go out to stay in, sometimes for real things, sometimes for imaginary things, because there's no difference now. They're all imaginary. So I think back to the West Midlands. Robin, what are you dressed up to do?
Okay, so as I said, I'm wearing my American Idiots t-shirt, and this is in homage to a party I'm going to go to, or not go to, this evening. It is a Hurrah to Trump party, as my favourite American idiot. So this is going to be wearing this, and I will promise to play some very loud music and pogo in my chair in honour of said event.
Well, I imagine quite a few people around the world will be doing that. And indeed, there probably are some Zoom stuff. We do dress up to go out to stay in to do some real Zoom things too. Julie, what are you dressed up to go out to stay in to do?
Well, I was quite taken by the weather reports and the images, the pictures of snow in the north. I'm never quite sure where the north is. I think in this instance, it's actually quite far south.
Hold on.
But I love snow, and
We're not north.
no,
I just checked.
no, I didn't think you were really. But you just don't know these days. I mean, sort of the north seems to be coming closer and closer to London, which I'm sure they don't want to hear from me. Anyway, I thought Precious and I would go and fly with the snowman, and then we could.
Oh, and, and his snow dog, I presume.
No, that story's too sad. Precious and I will do our own thing. Thank you very much, Ju. We don't want any sad stories of dogs melting away and dead dogs in the first instance. We avoid that as much as possible. So Precious and I.
That wasn't my interpretation of the Raymond Briggs story. It has to be said for anybody watching who's not seen it. But yes, you're going off with the snowman.
Yeah, and Precious. And we're going to fly up over the fields, and then we can do Walking in the Air. Da 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 da. Da, 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 da. And every time I hear that in my mind, I think of French and Saunders. It's sort of like their version of it with that naughty little Dawn French. It's sort of like, so it always makes me smile. So yeah, Precious and me are going to go and look at the snow.
I think Dawn French has a lot to answer for. Well, as you say, French and Saunders. My ability to watch Silent Witness was destroyed before my friend's car ever went on it, because as soon as they did their takeoff, that was it. All I could see after that was some French and Saunders. So, Josh, what are you dressed up to go out to stay in to do?
I am dressed up, and I think, as you said, it's either something in reality or something imaginary. Mine used to be a reality, but it's now very much an imaginary event. Because I am dressed up for after morning training tomorrow morning to go and get coffee and pancakes, which was always nice, relaxing thing to do. Kind of winter stroll up from the pool into town to get a nice chain coffee. and food. But that is very much an imaginary event at the moment, and I think for some foreseeable time as well.
I
So
think we
that is
should
what
come
I
up
would be
with a-
liking to do.
I think we should come up with a new phrase like covert comfort. And my covert comfort to you would be you won't need to dress up in order to get Robin to make the coffee and the pancakes.
Yeah, and I don't have to get
It's
up
always
at
me that
like,
has to make the pancakes as well.
I don't have to wake up at 4 either, which is nice.
We have as a
Right, so
complete
yeah,
side.
I seem to remember that when Josh, like so many students, was forced to give up his student accommodation, he brought a very nice coffee machine back that he
I
talked
did.
about on this show. So, yeah, I would just get Dad to do it.
I think you're holding ransom in your bedroom, aren't you?
No, it is in the kitchen. I was persuaded to allow it to be in a communal area.
I've got to be said that I use it more than he does. And we are going to come to Jew and what she's dressed up for. But in terms of pancakes, I can't remember where we got it, but we have this brilliant like hot plate, which has got 6 perfect like mini pancake size rings in it, and it plugs in. So you just make the batter, spoon it in, get 6 at a time, divvy them out. Ironically, I get to make it and cook it, and I don't like pancakes. So there you go.
That is a covered comfort for you, Josh. I'm dressed up to go out to compare an outdoor event, which is really just as imaginary as dressed up to go out to compare an indoor event. But so this has been hanging. I realised when I kind of look around the studio that these things have been hanging on the side of the studio for about 4 years because I can't remember what I last wore this waistcoat for. I think actually it's appeared on more than one costume when we've been in Hackney Carnival with Para Carnival. But the hat I've only worn once, which was to compare one of our Together 2012 tents at the Liberty Festival in Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park. So it's been stuck there for at least 3.5 years. And I dust it occasionally with the dustbuster. And I was thinking, well, it'd be really nice to kind of go a bit over the top today. And I thought, Ju, you keep looking at this every single day. You walk past it 4 or 5 times a day. Let's just put the hat on. And then I remembered when I put it on that actually it's quite tight, which is probably another reason I haven't been running it. But we ran some fantastic, though I say so myself, virtual live events in November, December for our Making History Together 2020 festival. And the good news is all of that is still available online. But I do yearn, much as I think it's not going to happen for another year or so, to be working outside or indeed outside at all, but particularly working outside. So this is my outdoor compare cabaret outfit.
Brilliant. So, and we all know what we're doing or not. Which probably brings us on quite nicely to kind of chatting about some ideas that we've had and activities we've been getting up to. And as ever on a Friday,
Well, I was going to say, let's just talk about what's coming up later. And then I think we'll be introducing the same little link back to you because at the end of our shows on a Friday, we like to play out with some live music. And it usually falls to our co host, also known as Angry Fish, to play us out on his guitar. We have also coming up something for the weekend where we recommend things for you to do from home, online, or offline. And as with the rest of this week, we're going to be focusing not entirely, but mostly on what you can see at the Unlimited Festival between now and Sunday. We'll also be playing you a video to show you more about how you can join in from home and introducing some work that's been sent in. But before that, Robin, I think we've got a new song today. So over to you.
yeah. Hi, thanks. Hi again. It's like a real interview. It's exciting. So, well, I decided, or I think history decided that I needed to write a new song. Because I've kind of got all the list of songs I've done, and so far, other than our kind of anthem of "We Will Survive," I've not had to repeat anything, which is testament to the amount of songs I've written that I can still remember, or my memory anyway. But I need to write something because I think I felt very deflated on when I heard I mean, surprisingly, because I'm a kind of pretty much a fairly optimistic kind of guy. Um, I was out when the news came on that we were going into a lockdown, like kind of at midnight on the 30th of December, and I've kind of felt the life force ebbing almost from me. Not to over egg it, but certainly kind of just I've really felt it, and more than I think the others kind of the first one kind of crept up and whatever, but and I was just ah. And then, I've been trying to build on that, and I've been doing various bits of work and trying to get creative. And I thought, you know what? Today I'm going to write a song this morning. It may not be perfect in its performance later, but that both appreciates the situation, but kind of brings that message of hope that I like to try to put into songs. And we've talked in the show that often it's very easy to write sad and melancholy things. It just is. It's a fact. It just is. It's that kind of, you can get in that mood, and actually writing things that kind of do give a positive message is sometimes a little bit harder. So I wanted to kind of get a balance of both. So it does. I've written a song, and it's called Happy Every Day. And the focus of it is it doesn't, it's there's a recognition in it of the situation we're in, but it's about, the end of it is about a smile takes you everywhere.
And is that the first new piece of work you've done this year, given that we're only on the 15th?
Yeah, this is a 2021 debut.
I mean, I'm interested in exploring the process a bit more. I was at a music industry meetup, which is something that the Unlimited Festival has organised. It's not on the main programme, but it is possible to find out the details. And I believe on different art forms, those meetups carry on until tomorrow morning. But it's just really brought home the sort of massive range of musical activity, but also, like you say, the impact that there's been over the last 10 months and the sort of impact going forwards. I mean, ironically, as we're talking about your music, I'm very proud of the fact that we've actually got a gender balance, because one of the issues I brought up at the industry showcase was just the fact that disability is an issue in the music business, but there's actually more working male disabled musicians than non-disabled women musicians. So there has to be something very, very wrong about that. I mean, our own festival, like I say, is still there to enjoy online, and almost the last event was one I ran with Josh, which we both found fascinating, which is called The Sound of the Story. And that's looking at how you can use Foley sound, live sound effects within opera to extend access to people with visual impairment, and also just to make the story more powerful for everybody. But when it comes back to it, that person with a guitar, man and woman, is right at the heart of the sort of story of disability arts in the UK, which, you know, I was stuck at home with nobody to take me out at the time. But as I understand from the history, really started with cabarets around protest meetings and campaign meetings. And we didn't have the amplification. We didn't imagine we would be having people like our own James Rose conducting at the Albert Hall. You know, people writing their songs on playing on their guitar and accompanying themselves in response to the current situation is absolutely key to disability arts, in the same way that I think music is much more part of our art movement than other international art movements. And it's very unusual for an art movement to start with music rather than visual art and then bring the visual art in. So
Okay.
that's a lot. But did you want to say something, Judy, about protest songs?
Just very quickly, I think predominantly, I mean, there's one person who springs to mind, who was singing around the earlier times, and she was Claire Lewis, who is now Dennis Queen. But it was predominantly men. But interestingly, because my protest roots go back to women's liberation, of course, within the feminist movement, we were all women. And so we were singing away and having cabarets and, writing songs and singing on protests and so on as we marched along. And of course, Ethel Smythe, back in the suffragette days, wrote the March of the Women, which she sang and conducted in Holloway Prison. So there is a tradition of women in protest songs, but we currently, I think, over the last sort of 30 to 40 years, other than women's liberation, we haven't really featured that strongly. We've had lots of comedians. Barbara Lazicki is a wonderful comedian. She was very much part of the initiative actually for the Piss on Pity Tragic Roadshow, tragic but brave roadshow. But I don't remember her actually writing songs. It was down to Johnny Crescendo.
I think we can only reflect and challenge, not only reflect, but I think the disability art scene always is going to reflect the mainstream, and it's only the efforts that have been made by women working in music today over the last 5 years to highlight the sort of appalling lack on live bills. One of my PAs is a wonderful musician who tours internationally. She shouldn't really have to make her living from social care. If her band had the status of a similar male band and had been going for such a long time and had the same recording and performance history, statistically it would be very different. So I think we can challenge it as a disability arts movement.
Yeah, and I mean, I think
can't take responsibility for the inequalities, but I think it's great to see things moving forward. We'll come back to Robin's song when you introduce it, and I'd love to hear a bit more then about how you wrote it and just a sort of bit of an extended introduction.
Okay.
We have in the meantime got some films being sent in. One of our regular presenters, Stara Plurger. I'm thinking if I put Stara's film on and then we can get EJ in to talk about her picture. So Stara is one of our presenters. She's also a member of our associate drama company, Act Up Newham. And Stara produces regular weekly spots for us where she demonstrates an art activity or a craft activity that anybody can do from home. On Wednesday, we saw Stara's assistant's dog, Merlot, take us for a walk through the cold, frosty fields of Norfolk, where they are shielding away from their usual home in Newham. So that's where Stara is today. So I'm going to pop that up, and then we're going to talk to another member of the Surgeoner family very briefly about how she created a particular kind of picture.
Hi, I'm Stara, and this is Merlot, the dog. He's a good boy. I painted cards. I painted them using potatoes. Bye.
Isn't that fantastic?
Yes, that was absolutely lovely. I'm just going to do a bit of audio description for anybody who couldn't view it. So Stara was actually able to take the potato straight out of the potato field, cut it in half, cut a star shape out of it, and turn it into, just like any other kind of printing stamp, and then use some gold ink to stamp it in. And you can do all sorts of things with potato prints, can't you? So it can be quite random shapes. It can be quite interesting. I wouldn't cook with them afterwards, though. That would be... So we're lucky enough to have briefly with us now EJ Surgeoner, who's one of our youth presenters. You might remember seeing EJ on some of our youth takeover shows last year. I'm gonna pop up, and I'll probably pop it up solo because our system has a strange way of turning pictures upside down unless they're the only thing on the screen. And then we'll get EJ to talk over it and tell us about it. In fact, who wants to audio describe it to start with?
You want me to describe it? Okay, so I'll describe it and then bring EJ in. So it is a painting of an anime character. It is a person, a male with kind of fairly scruffy black hair, a kind of dark oriental complexion. I would describe it as quite fierce eyebrows, and is wearing a black t-shirt with some orange decal on the shoulders, and I think holding something orange in his hand.
So, EJ, how long did it take you to paint this?
Probably like 40 minutes doing the actual painting, but I had to wait for it to dry in between for the different layers.
So, I know it's actually quite deceptive. What's it actually painted on?
Glass.
Wow. So, does that mean you did it from behind or on the top of the glass?
I did it from behind, so I reversed the image and then did it on that, so that when I turned it back round again on the glass, it'd be the right way round.
Wow. So, you had to think about what you would usually put on last and put that on first.
Yeah, it's like the opposite.
She completely confused me because I came into the kitchen where she was doing it, and I said, "Em, those eyes were great. You've painted all over them." At which point she fell about laughing at my lack of understanding.
So, did you use tracing paper, EJ?
No, I printed it off on just like normal paper.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, that makes
tracing
sense.
for it.
So you were able to trace it through the glass. What happened when you were coming onto the back layers? Because you wouldn't have been able to see anything at that point, would you?
I did take the picture off and like flip it round sometimes to see what I was doing, but it was kind of guess.
Well, it's beautifully done. And like I say, I would never have realised. Well, I mean, I knew when we asked you to come on, but to start with, I never would have realised that it was on glass. What kind of paint is it?
I used acrylic paint and Sharpie for the outline.
Wow, so that's really helpful to know because I think I was assuming that you had to use proper glass paint, which of course you've got to send off for or buy. But if you managed to do it with acrylic, and I never would have thought a Sharpie would have worked on that. That's such a useful technique to share. What do you think, Julie?
Well, I love Sharpies, so I'm not surprised, to be honest. I think Sharpies can do anything. They're sort of they could write upside down. They last. They have loads of different colours. So
I was really thinking, what did you think of EJ's picture? I should have
Oh,
realised that I sent you off on a sort of nerdy Sharpie thing.
oh no, do you know I really love it, EJ. I think the glass actually gives it a very interesting perspective. It makes it almost 3D. I think that was really a really good call to do it on glass.
And who's the anime character? Just before we take it down again.
I fear I'm going to fail at pronouncing his name, but I think it is Akashi. He's from a show which is about high school volleyball teams.
Oh, I see. So in the show, he's a volleyball player.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I think you've done it really well. I like the sort of like the edginess of it. I find it quite edgy. Sort of perhaps it's my age. I don't know.
No, I mean I know knowing the character from seeing Emily watching it. I think it's a very good representation of the actual character.
So, as the person who always does the risk assessments, before we move on again, I have to ask this health and safety question. What sort of glass did you use? What sort of glass shouldn't you use from your experience?
You're asking me or Emily?
Oh, well,
As
I'm
the risk
EJ, really. I don't imagine she consulted the responsible adult.
It was probably more plasticky than glass, but it was just the front of a picture frame.
Mm.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, and I think that's probably what I would recommend is acrylic. But I think if you do take glass, because I mean, often there's frames, the edge of the frame gets broken, you've got the glass there. Some frames have got glass that's very carefully trimmed and the edges are very kind of fine and it's not going to snap. But some glass I absolutely would not paint on, particularly stuff that comes out of cheap frames. So yes, that would always be our caveat. So we'll pop EJ's picture up on our highlights and links page. You can see that under the main Together Unlocked TV link on our website www.together2012.org.uk. I'm going to pop a short video on now that will just tell you more about how to join in from home with our unsurprisingly named Join In From Home program. And then we'll have something for the weekend and talk about the
And
Unlimited
say
Festival.
thank you very much, EJ, for sharing. That was lovely.
Yeah, thanks, EJ. Hope to see you on the show again soon.
Together 2012 is running a Join In From Home programme from our website together2012.org.uk. Click on the link at the top of the page, Join In From Home, to go straight to the main page where you have a wide range of accessible, inclusive creative activities, mostly using things that you would already have at home. At the top of the page and throughout the pages, you will also see videos in British Sign Language to translate the site for deaf people. These videos can also be useful if you have difficulties reading and you simply want to hear more of the content. The Join In From Home programme is based on the activities that we would usually be running in East London. So, for example, we have an art club which usually operates on a Tuesday with craft-based activities and on a Friday morning for drawing and painting. Here you can join in with the arts club's Hands project and celebrate your uniqueness and membership of the human race. There are full instructions on the linked page here. But essentially, we invite you to draw around your hand on a piece of card. It could be an old cereal packet. Cut the shape out, turn it over, and decorate it with anything you would like to do. It could be paints, crayons, glitter, collage, beads, leaves, anything you can think of. Photograph your hand or hands and send it to us at tv@together2012.org.uk. We'll add it to our video installation and share it on social media. Our music club usually meets on the first Friday of each month. We have an open mic session and we invite everybody to play along with percussion instruments. So here you can learn how to make your own percussion instruments from recycled materials. And you can also join in a percussion workshop from last summer in terms of Carnival Percussion. So these three instruments are used most often in Carnival. We have a shaker and a go-go and a hand drum. So this is how to make a recycled shaker, a recycled go-go, and a recycled hand drum. You can also, if you're technically minded, make your own tactile sound instrument. This does require a few simple electronics, but is a very interesting and exciting project as part of our Vibrafusion ongoing work. You can also listen with Together. We have Spotify playlists created by Robin Surgener, also known as our TV presenter Angry Fish, and we also have 2 classical music playlists from Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra, including one that's uniquely suited to people who are feeling very unwell.
Right, so it's time for something for the weekend. I tell you what are we going to talk about that isn't the Unlimited Festival? Let's do that first and make sure we fit everything in. Julie.
There were 2 things really. One was Q Kew Gardens has got virtual tours of their greenhouses, which I thought sounded particularly attractive given the weather and how cold it is. I thought I might go to the tropical house. So there's that available. Also, by accident, I discovered today I put a film on for the dogs downstairs while we're sort of up here filming. And it's called The Ministry of Fear, and it's a Fritz Lang film. It's a black and white film that was created in 1944, and I had no idea about its existence before. So I've done a little bit of looking up. I think I'm going to try and track it down so that I can watch it. It was gripping. It was beautifully done and very, very in the tradition of Fritz Lang, which is something that we've talked about quite a bit previously on the filmmakers groups.
Well, if you find that, Julie, do you think you could let us know on Monday? I mean, Robin, you've found out, or Robin or Josh, anyway, I know you've talked to us about before about the number of feature films that you can now see free on YouTube. So I don't know if anybody else can add that in, because I think it might be possible that film's there as well.
Well, that's what I'm hoping for. Yeah, for sure.
So how do you find those films, Josh or Robin? I don't know.
It was me, and it was a few weeks before Christmas. But I'm sure it was literally YouTube, and you can just type in films, available. Yeah, I think there was. I don't want to make something up and give it wrong, but it was definitely YouTube that there was a huge availability of old films on there.
Yes, because we all think if we can't afford Disney Plus or Netflix, there's no other way to access films online. But actually, I mean, I think maybe type in, if you're just looking to see what's there, something like free feature films. But if you're looking for a specific film, and usually if you're looking for an old film, it's worth looking at the British Film Institute website, the BFI, because although you'll probably end up having to pay something, they do have a huge catalogue of old films, and increasingly they're available to view on demand. So, does anybody else have things that don't relate to Unlimited?
Go on.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I did. I mean, I think in a similar vein to Julie's thinking about warmer places. Today was the second day of the cricket test match between Sri Lanka and England. Australia are also playing India, but less worried about that match. But it is in Sri Lanka, and it is kind of bizarre thinking about England playing cricket when you look out your window here, and it's probably 40 degrees in Sri Lanka or something rather glorious like that at the moment. But there's not a lot of live sport other than football going on. So to find something that is warm, and at a different pace, and I think we talked about slow TV and stuff like that. Test match cricket is not something that generally gets your heart racing. Certainly not as a viewer or a listener of it. But that being said, I mean, it has its own excitement, and I think people get very kind of like, well, how can you listen to cricket on the radio? And it's like it's fascinating, and we sort of do our best to fill an hour 3 days a week. Cricket commentators are the absolute pinnacle of how to talk about absolutely nothing for hours on end and eat cake while doing it. But in England are doing well. England have got a bit of a commanding lead coming. They're still in their first innings and about 190 in front or something like that. But if you're someone who can't sleep, it starts at 4:30 in the morning. But well, then goes on to probably lunchtime ish. I'm not sure the exact time difference, but they call the end of a day's cricket is called stumps, and they call stumps just before the light is too poor to see the ball without floodlights. But it's just something different, and you can get that. I mean, it is a subscription on Sky, but you can also get it on Radio 5 Live Extra, and imagine probably test match special on dare I say it, long wave.
Yeah, and I think it's always worth searching YouTube for that kind of thing as well, isn't it? Because you've also got the videos that people put up who are there, and there's still kind of players and things doing videos and so on. Did you have something else, Josh?
I had one kind of TV thing, and then I'll touch on some sport actually that Dad made me think of in his. But there's a new Marvel show that came out today called WandaVision, which is Wanda and Vision. It's two people, and it's a very kind of out there, bizarre kind of sitcom style. I think the first 2 episodes are set in a kind of 1950s styly kind of small town. But then from having watched the trailer, it kind of goes into the 80s and it's all a little bit kind of strange. And I've watched the first episode and it kind of starts to make a little bit more sense at the end, quite what's going on. But it's very, certainly for the stuff in the 50s, very kind of tongue in cheek, kind of satire that these two superheroes. So it's set after the latest film. So it's set in kind of 2020 that these kind of reality bending, controlling superheroes suddenly find themselves living in this little kind of 1950s town. So it's quite interesting and very bizarre, but quite amusing. So I'm interested to see where that goes. And that's on Disney Plus.
And just to add on that, you definitely have to suspend your disbelief in terms of equality to get into the show, because it's absolutely trying to lampoon and depict at the same time the kind of male female relationships that existed in kind of middle class America at that time.
Yeah, it's very much kind of glances at the camera kind of styly. And then the other thing on sport, I mean, even if you don't like cricket, Test Match Special is a great listen, because about half of it is cricket and half of it is nonsense. But it's really entertaining. It's really funny.
For somebody who's holed out like me against cricket for 20 years plus with Julie, you're actually making me think, you know what, Ju, it's lockdown 3. There's no end of shielding in sight. It does sound quite attractive and slowing down, different pace, sunshine.
Yeah.
Yes, but let us say we're a disability arts show. We'll move back from the sport now, guys. You've given me enough kind of. Well, I might listen to a bit of Julie's radio if I'm past it. Does anybody have anything else that isn't unlimited and isn't sport?
No.
There we go. So the Unlimited Festival, for those of you who don't know about it, is a festival that takes place every 2 years, brings together the best of Britain's disabled artists, or some of them, because there's hundreds of wonderful people, and also some international artists. Usually that would have been on at the South Bank last autumn, but instead it's on digitally this week until Sunday. We've talked earlier in the week. Quite a lot of the things, they're released on video or they take place live as a recorded event, and then they're available for another couple of days. We both looked at the same video today that was due to be up for people to watch, and it wasn't there. So I think, like any organisation, they might be having a couple of teething problems. If you try and look for something that isn't there, do have another look tomorrow. Hopefully they will have sorted it out. So who's looking forward to what?
Well, I had a peek earlier today at The Origin of Common Power, which is a lovely film, and I'm going to finish looking at it over the weekend. It's about a young lassie who sees herself as Carmen Power. She's a survivor of cancer, and it's created in her bedroom. It looks really great. The other film, which I picked up, which I'm really excited about actually, was I Was Naked Smelling of Rain.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, haven't we?
Yeah,
Mosby.
I started to watch it and I actually had to stop because I thought I'm going to have to look at it properly. It's beautifully audio described. It's also BSL interpreted, and it's beautifully made. And I was really blown away by what I'd watched. So again, this weekend is something I'm going to sit down and look at properly. I'm really looking forward to it.
I know you'd looked at Carmen Power earlier in the week, hadn't you, Robin? Because it's a children's piece. And had you got anything to add?
No, I mean, I think I've looked at the script description, didn't get a chance to actually look at the filming of it. But I thought that even though the illness is about the girl and cancer and it's about the relationships, I think that there were going to be a lot of children who are going to be struggling with relationships and changes in who's still around them and who isn't as a result of COVID and all the other things that go on in the world. I mean, we have to keep remembering that there are other things that people are still suffering with and from. Um, but yeah, no, I thought it was quite interesting.
I think that's a really good point. I mean, I think the kind of things that we used to keep from children or not discuss much 12 months ago, you just can't avoid those. We do try to focus because this is a disability arts and chat show on disability art and chat. But of course, we still reflect the reality. And, indeed, so did our festival in so many ways. But I do think it's a really interesting point that there are resources out there that have been created before 2020, both for children and for adults, that deal with change and bereavement and so on, that could be still very useful at the moment because there's such a huge number of people in emotional distress, and it's hardly surprising. So, what are you looking forward to, Josh, at Unlimited?
So it's something I think it launched yesterday. We talked about it on Wednesday, Here and Now, which is a dance piece that it's described as three groups all kind of turn up at the same time to make use of an abandoned warehouse. One of which is a group of, they're called Death the Theas in the description, which I know you thought it's kind of it's visual vernacular. It's a kind of very performancey type of sign language, I think is how you described it. A group of footballers and a group of street dancers, and they kind of have they're trying to decide who gets to use this abandoned warehouse. Which
So,
begs the question, it's a very small warehouse, I think. But then kind of come together through movement. And it just sounds really interesting. So I'm interested to kind of give that a watch.
yeah, well, there's all these traditions around street dance where you have the battles and the stands.
Yeah.
So I can't, yeah, it must be part of it. I mean, I'd love to see them standing off against each other. Robin, what else are you looking forward to?
Well, something I have actually managed to start to look at is the Susie Lark exhibition called Unseen, and what it doesn't tell you in the description on the website is that the images are 2 by 3 meter images, a lot of them, something like that, and they've been put into windows or created as windows in a block near Waterloo. And if I could remember the name of it, I'm sorry, I can't, which is rubbish. I only watched it earlier. But literally, they've it's kind of big, long 2-story building which is all glass fronted, and what they've done is they've put these images behind the glass on various of these windows. So there's this whole selection of images at life size and bigger, but the images are actually really fantastic. I've only got to the second one. It's because it gives you a really good description of how they were made and size and everything at the front end of the tour, as it were, because it's like a virtual tour, but then goes into audio describe the pictures, and very, very effectively. I mean, I didn't shut my eyes and imagine because but it was the description matched what I was seeing. So not just the picture, but kind of the location of the picture as well. So I've only got to the second one, which sounds rubbish, but it's not, because it was just so fascinating. And actually, I got to the second one. I had to stop I stopped the video, still paused it, so I could look at this image and actually look at how on earth have they done it. And it is because it is so seamless, and because the images are about their real life photos but altered to create a quizzical experience, I think would be the best description. But it really, really fascinating.
Yes, I mean, I don't think there's one for that particular piece of work, but do have a look at the Unlimited program for opportunities where artists are presenting things live, because there are some of those. I mean, I think it's always been a way that people do public art, but I can see it becoming much more so. I mean, I'm just thinking actually, do you remember back in 2012 with our festival, we had a photographer and Ian, I'm so sorry, I can't remember your name. He's a wonderful photographer who just did beautiful, beautiful, huge portraits of Paralympians printed on film, which we then mounted on windows. And we took over the Advice Arcade in central Stratford that everybody has to sort of drive around if they're looking for Olympic Park parking and so on. And we put them in the windows, and it was absolutely stunning. Now, originally, they were going to be installed in a venue that, in fact, closed halfway through the games. But very few people would have seen them unless they'd come inside, whereas everybody who drove past saw those portraits. I mean, we always say our biggest audiences in more usual times are our outdoor performances. You know, we do street art in shopping centres, we do street art, and we do the circus in various different places, and we work in parks. And that's where people see you because they happen to be there anyway. I mean, with my visual art, I mean, I particularly like if you make work and it has to go into a gallery, there's nothing like a gallery that's attached to a theatre or attached to a library or attached to a community centre, because again, people are really coming in. And maybe that's one thing Covered's doing, is actually making something that would have been inside the South Bank more visible. Okay, only to local people and people who are driving past for work, but you know, that won't always be the case, but it's certainly going to be much easier to. I mean, I think we'll all be back at work before we're back at leisure. That seems to be the way the government's doing it, doesn't it?
Can I just check? Was there a link to that photographer on our website from 2012?
There may be. I doubt it's current, but if I can find it, then as with everything else, including the Unlimited Festival programme, it will be on our highlights and links page by about 5 o'clock. Has anybody got anything else they wanted to talk about in terms of Unlimited that they particularly want to do? Because something to stress is that although our festival will be up on indefinitely, this finishes on Sunday. You know, whether an event is live or not, the film is only going to be available till Sunday night. So it really is, in terms of something for the weekend, worth prioritising this work in terms of Unlimited. So sorry, I was interrupting. Is there more that you want to talk about?
Not other than Unlimited, no.
Well, I know. I guess what I meant was in terms of the other activities, of which there are many.
Well, I was going to say, just abnormally funny, the kind of the I guess is their closing show on Sunday evening. I imagine it will be adult, knowing a number of the comedians that are taking part. But I've said to Trace, I want to watch that because I just think it could be very, very funny.
And I think that's one of the few ones that you have to pay for. But
£10.
yes, yeah, it's a fantastic lineup of comedians. Knowing the South Bank and previous pricing structures, it would have cost literally twice as much if you were seeing them in the flesh. So yeah, that's going to be a very, very good evening. Something I thought was really fun tomorrow at 2 o'clock. They've got a disco spelt DYS, I think, to reflect other things. And it just sounds really nice. There's a curated soundtrack. There's going to be sort of suggestions for different dance moves. You know, it's 2 o'clock, you know, have an early lunch, let the food go down, dress up to go out to stay in and have a bop. So, yeah, I thought that was really good. Also, what they call BAST, Gods in Lockdown. And it says 4 celestial beings from queer dimensions are beamed into your home by Brownton Abbey, as they say. And that's queer, disabled people of colour. Again, like a lot of these, it says the film will be available afterwards, but the live event is tomorrow night. And given that some of these films have disappeared from the website, if you can catch them on the time that they're due to be released or broadcast for the first time, then I would thoroughly recommend that. Final words of wisdom about Unlimited, anybody?
Enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the main thing. And just look at the range, you know, have a good look at the program, because even, yeah, even if it's not things you're interested in, it's really interesting to see what they're doing. And finally, in terms of that, there are some sessions that continue. The last one is tomorrow morning, where disabled artists who've got work in progress are pitching that work. It's aimed at people like myself who might go on to program those artists. But if you're at an earlier stage, maybe you're developing your first grant application or your first project proposal, listening to them and looking at what they're doing in those kind of, midway at least through the R&D stage, I would thoroughly recommend. So, Mr. Surgeoner, or should I say Mr. Angry Fish,
Oh, yeah.
you've got your guitar out already, so I'm assuming it's a relatively long song. So on Monday, before we go for now, we have our usual app date, or should I say the return of app date. We started app date when we were helping to pilot the NHS COVID-19 app. We've moved on to make it all things arts app related. So that's just one of the things that we've got coming up on Monday. Later in the week, of course, we have more Clockwork Paralympics, more poetry, sport, gaming, virtual nature watch. But we would love also to have your contributions. So please do send us your artwork, your videos, your music, your films, or just contact us about coming on live for a chat, info@together2012.org.uk. But that's it from me from East London for now.
And me. So I'll pick up the Fritz Lang thing on Monday as well. So have a good weekend from me.
Bye.
Have a good weekend.
All right, so over to me. Okay, I'm back now. Sorry about that. So I'm just going to sing this new song without too much description. It's called Happy Every Day. All around the world, folks are living in fear. Europe, Asia, USA, and countries quite near. Everybody's gotta take some responsibility to stay safe, to stay at home till the future is clear. Take your brain, find a space, give your heart a great start. Reflect within, then without. There's find your soul, digging deep, create from deep in your heart. Everybody's got potential somewhere inside. Reflect within, then without. There's nowhere to hide. Living is easy if you have a smile upon your face. Socially distance is nothing more than physical space. Tell a joke, share a coke, dress in threads to look cool and natty. Give out the feel-good factor and make everybody happy. Oh. Every day in every way you must must feel apart. Get a vaccine, gather hope, they're all that you need to cope. Everybody's gotta find a way to navigate their mind. Take a leap of faith. Who knows what you might find. Living is easy if you've a smile upon your face. Socially distance is nothing more than physical space. Tell a joke, share a coke, dress in threads to look cool and natty. Give out the feel-good factor and make everybody happy. Give out the feel-good factor and make everybody happy. Thanks, everybody. See you next week. It's goodbye from Unlocked.